Hello, state of the sorors. Was I the first one to make that joke? I really hope not. Anyway, I'm Melissa Wright, and I'm here to talk about a collaboration to bring an open source contribution model to the university setting generally and Johns Hopkins University network specifically. And this is us being excited. Yay. So this is an open source collaboration led by Johns Hopkins, funded by the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, supported by the foresight of Indeed, and implemented by us at Open Source Collective. More yay! I'm Melissa Wright. I help lead open community and open partnerships at Open Source Collective. And at Open Source Collective, we look to build healthy and resilient and equitable open source ecosystems. We provide fiscal and legal infrastructure for open source with sustainability tools and integrations. And the FOSS Contributor Fund is a big part of that. The Contributor Fund has been pretty impactful in the company setting. So the kind of thesis question, excitement, yay, here is, what does the Contributor Fund look like in the university setting? So quick history of the Contributor Fund. This is a brainchild of Dwayne O'Brien and the Indeed team. Each month, internal contributors to open source, they vote on the most meaningful, most impactful open source projects for them. Those are tabulated, and $10,000 are contributed to the open source project winner. And so, different to other sponsorship models, the FOSS Contributor Fund puts open source business viability into the hand of a company's technologists, thereby further democratizing open source sustainability. So a little example of that, one that's close to home, is OpenStreetMap. I've been part of the OpenStreetMap community for many, many years, and on the board of OpenStreetMap US. And we were an early, Indeed, recipient of their contributor fund. And not only were we humbled by this, we didn't even know of a shared relationship, but the contribution allowed for mutual visibility and acknowledgement. And so that, from personal, allows us to segue to the university setting. Meet Saeed Chowdhury. Saeed is the brainchild of this Contributor Fund collaboration. He is the Associate Dean of Research Data Management at Johns Hopkins University, and a big proponent of bringing open source to the university. And so you would think a Johns Hopkins Contributor Fund would be pretty much a cut and paste of, in a company setting. No, it's a lot of what you might expect and a whole lot more. So some things to think about when considering open source at Johns Hopkins and open source, I think, within the university setting. Open source is at the heart of great research and development and the educational framework of JHU. But one must ask, what is the visibility of that commitment? Does the econ department know what open source projects the biostatistics department are relying on and or contributing to for their work? Can the hours of open source project engagement be acknowledged in a professor's tenure portfolio? We're implementing a general contributor fund for Johns Hopkins, and we're building technical tools that will accelerate the impact of contributor funds, both for Johns Hopkins, hopefully to respond to some of those questions, but for the entire ecosystem, university, company, or otherwise. These tools will scale the contributor fund and also allow us to see the impact and assessment of our FOSS contributions. These tools will empower the open source community of JHU to support the ecosystems they care about, not just the high visibility projects of a many-tiered network. So let's go back to the OpenStreetMap example. So let's say the statistics department loves OpenStreetMap. I mean, can't do crime statistics without it. But the infrastructure of OpenStreetMap that they really need is not exactly the shapefiles of OpenStreetMap, is a little bit further down the stack in the Pele's geocoder. Do they know that? How visible is that dependency and in that impact, like in the contribution model? These are things that we hope to surface in our building of a contributor fund in the university, and something that's much more sophisticated, scalable, and nuanced for everyone. So finally, just some guiding questions. How do universities break down department silos in order to collectively collaborate on the ecosystems of open source? How do we acknowledge the university community in their work to sustain open source so that they can be recognized by the academy? And what is our responsibility to bring universities into the design of open source contribution models? These are all really great questions that we hope to lend insight into as we build out this project, questions that I hope that you will join us